guys, welcome back to the channel where I cover missing persons, unsolved cases, crime news, and more. Well, I'm finally diving more into the Jennifer Kesse case. I did a video about 11 months ago, and it's about time we brought her back to the forefront and covered her case more on the channel. Because, as I said previously, this is a local case to me. I live in the Orlando, Central Florida area, and I remember seeing her beautiful young face from the moment she disappeared. Her family and friends plastered her posters everywhere in the Orlando area. And today marks 18 years. 18 years since she was abducted. And we still don't know what happened to her on January 24th, 2006. So she was reported missing when she failed to show up for work at Central Florida Investments. It was on the morning of Tuesday, January 24th, 2006, after a long weekend in St. Croix with her boyfriend and other friends. Now, to clarify, her family is wanting to make sure this got out. She and her boyfriend, they did not go on a cruise. Some people have thought through the years that it was a cruise. It was airline. They flew to St. Croix and then they flew back to Florida. For those close to Jennifer, her family and friends knew something was wrong immediately. If she was going to be late for work or a meeting, she would call. She was one of those people that was just very much in contact with those close to her and those she loved. If she was going to be late for work or a meeting, she would make a call. So the fact that she didn't make any calls and she was just gone was red flags for everyone. Jennifer had good routines. She and her boyfriend, who lives hours away in South Florida, and of course Jennifer's here in Orlando, called each other daily while driving to work in the morning and would speak with each other every night before going to bed. On Monday, the morning of January 23rd, 2006, Jennifer left her boyfriend's home in South Florida and drove directly to work in Ocoee, Florida, not going home first, but directly to her work, as she usually did when she stayed the weekend in South Florida. So she did not go to her condo that morning. She went right to work. On the night of Monday, January 23rd, Jennifer left work at around 6 p.m., walking out of the building where she worked with her boss and wishing each other a good evening, and they will see each other in the morning. That evening, Jennifer talked to her father, mother, brother, and later with some friends, as well as her boyfriend by phone as usual, and that was the last time anyone had seen or heard from Jennifer. The last telephone call to her boyfriend was 9:57 p.m. on January 23rd, 2006. Jennifer and her boyfriend did not talk on the morning of Tuesday, the 24th. Her boyfriend called Jennifer at work and was told that she had not arrived yet. When she did not show up for work, her employer immediately called her family, her parents, to see if they knew where Jennifer was. Her parents tried to reach her at her condo and on her cell phone and computer, but none of these attempts were successful. Police were notified, and in the journey for this family's personal hell began. The family reacted very, very quickly. They lived 2 hours away from Jennifer, here in Orlando, but they immediately jumped in their cars and headed to her condo. Her disappearance was known and being acted upon by both her family and police. Upon reaching Jennifer's condo by that mid-afternoon, the family thought it looked normal. Everything was clean and in place. Looks like she'd obviously slept in her bed, taken a shower, a towel was wet, and the shower was wet as well, and a couple outfits were laying on the bed as if she was trying to choose what to wear for work that morning. Her tracks seemed to cease when she left her condo, when she was headed for work around 7:30 to 7:45 a.m. By 4 p.m. that day, Both family and friends had flyers made and they were distributed within the immediate area of her condo, which was located at the Mosaic at Millenia Condominiums, right near the mall at Millenia in Orlando. Now that is, for those that are not aware, that area is a pretty high-end area. Although we will learn that there was a lot of construction going on at her condo because they became from apartments to condos and there was a lot going on. And so again, we're going to learn more about that. On Thursday, the 26th at high noon, police were notified that they had found Jennifer's car. It was located in a condominium, abandoned, about 1.2 miles down the same road where she lived, and that was at the Huntington on the Green condominiums at the corner of Texas and Americana Avenue in Orlando, Florida. I can tell you that's starting to enter an area that's a little bit high in crime. I know that myself from living in this area, and also I did a ride along a number of years back, and officers told me that is a quote-unquote sketchy part of town. That area of Texas Avenue near Americana. So, and cops would later tell folks as well that they find a lot of abandoned vehicles in that area. So, again, it's not uncommon for them to find abandoned cars there. Jennifer's car was parked by what appears to be a suspect that was seen on video, who pulled into a visitor's parking space, and this unknown person waited 32 seconds to exit her car and then just walked away, never looking back. And I'm going to show that video to you guys as well. And it becomes very, very difficult to identify this person because of the way the video at the time in 2006, it kind of took a photo. It kind of activated itself about every 2 seconds. And the bars to the gate, the fencing, block the view of the person's face, the person of interest's face. There's an award of up to, I believe, $15,000 right now for the identification and or whereabouts of Jennifer. And her family doesn't even care who did it. And they continue to say that to this day. They don't even care if anything happens to this individual. Although we all know that that's not going to happen. Her valuables were left in her car. So cops don't think it was robbery or a carjacking, but that they were looking to take Jennifer herself. Bloodhounds were used and they tracked a scent from where her car was found at that Huntington on the Green condo, and it led them back to her condo complex. So that tells you something right there. Tips do continue to come in even to this day. And it just seems like this is a case that Orlando Police Department could not solve. The family believes that OPD botched the investigation. I do think that there's a lot going on to it, and to be now 18 years as of today without an answer as to what happened to Jennifer or where Jennifer is or if she's even alive, that to me is got to be the hardest thing for her family. Not knowing. The not knowing has got to be the worst thing in the world. Her family describes Jennifer as a strong, fun-loving, career-minded, responsible young woman. And again, like they said, if she was running late to work, she called in. And so she was very communicative. So family and friends and coworkers knew that if she wasn't calling in, something was wrong. It was just very, very wrong. And she didn't have any issues with her life. Everything seemed great. She just came back from St. Croix with her boyfriend. And again, there's just nothing strange. Now, what is of note, like I stated before, is that there was a lot of construction going on in her condominium at that time. Jennifer, as well as some other folks that were living in the condos, thought that the construction workers were a bit creepy. She was a bit concerned about her safety. Apparently they stared at her constantly, and she expressed that to her family and her close friends. So I personally think it has to do with one or more of these construction workers. And we're going to go over that as well. There is a couple of persons of interest, one main person of interest. So let me go through. I'm going to show parts of, there's a 48 hours. There's so many great pieces out there from local news media. Here in Orlando, Channel 9 has a great piece. So I'm going to go through parts of it. And of course, as always, I'm going to link to these videos. Please watch the entire, it's a 3-part series, but the link will lead you to the entire video in one watch.
Was there any evidence of a forced entry?
No.
There was no blood on the ground?
The Orlando Police Department, they worked it very hard.
Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Lewis Bolden.
Joyce and Drew Kesse organized searches. They were standing on street corners, holding signs, begging, pleading for anyone to please help them find their daughter.
Nothing panned out.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
We have to find her. Oh my God, we've got to find her.
There are people out there who know exactly what happened to Jennifer Kesse.
Maybe the right person will see us.
Detective Joel Wright was still trying to solve this confounding mystery.
There were an unbelievable amount of man-hours went into this case.
In 2009, Detective Wright decided to take a fresh look at the case. One of the people he interviewed on audio tape was a former housekeeper at Jennifer's complex. The woman had not been questioned back in 2006.
Do you remember a person by the name of Jennifer Kesse that turned up missing?
Yes, she remembers the case.
When he showed her that security camera photo of the unidentified suspect, she gave him a possible new lead.
She did look at the photo and said, "That looks like Chino."
The housekeeper said the phantom figure's walk, clothing, and hairstyle resembled a man she knew from the complex named Chino, but she could not be sure it was him. Chino was a name Detective Wright had not heard before, but he learned Chino used to live in another building at Jennifer's condo complex.
So this is the infamous Chino. He has been, I would have to say, the main person of interest when you hear about Jennifer's case. This housekeeper was the second witness, the second person after seeing this video and these stills of this mystery person that parked Jennifer's car and walked away, that said, "This is Chino." So who is Chino? So this Chino does have a criminal history. Now, he has been in jail, and the 48 hours does get further into that. As of right now, he is a registered SO. Okay? He was a maintenance worker at the time, as well as a friend named Ben. Chino and Ben. And again, these are not their actual names. This is their nicknames for these two men. Chino is, from what we understand, he's about 5'9", and from what they're stating, once they went through the measurements of what they believed the suspect to be that was walking along that fence line after he parked Jennifer's car, they're not sure that he is the right height, but I still think it's possible that this gentleman is involved in some way if he's not the one that parked her car. Now, he was in the Lee County Jail for an RAPE charge. He is a criminal. He has a past. But is he the one who abducted Jennifer Kesse?
And was a former maintenance worker there. In fact, Chino had done work in Jennifer's condo just 1 week before she disappeared. And that's not all he learned.
I put just the name Chino into a leads tracking system, and one tip did come up. A crime line tip had been received in the first week of the investigation.
The tip was anonymous and suggested Chino may have been involved in Jennifer's disappearance, but it's unclear if police had looked into it or talked to Chino at all.
At that point, I thought the investigation was kicking into gear.
It wasn't hard to find Chino. He was serving time in a Florida prison for statutory rape of a teenage girl, a crime he committed 2 years after Jennifer disappeared.
So that is his mugshot. Again, he committed this statutory crime 2 years after Jennifer's disappearance. So that does or does not mean he was or wasn't involved. I believe it's very possible he's involved. And 2 separate tips that someone thought that this person walking after parking Jennifer's car was Chino. It's a little too coincidental for me. And again, you had all these maintenance workers not only working around Jennifer, they were in and out of her condo. A week before she went to St. Croix. To me, that is suspicious, and it bothers me that looking into this years later, they're not sure that OPD even looked into this Chino at the time. He should have been looked into right away.
I knew that Chino had been arrested for a sex crime, and that was part of the development of him as a person of interest.
You go by Chino, is that right? Yes.
Detective Wright interviewed him in prison and asked him about working in Jennifer's condo.
When you did the work in her unit, was she present while you were doing it? Yes, she was. How did you get into the condo? She let us in. Is everything normal? Everything was normal. She got ready for work.
Chino was then asked about these pictures, the one that the housekeeper said may have looked like him.
The photos that you looked at earlier, the guy walking by the gate. Right. Is there any reason why somebody would say that was you? No, not really.
And Chino is 5'9", taller than the figure's height estimated by police.
Chino was very cooperative. He was familiar with the case, and he denied any kind of wrongdoing.
Chino agreed to take a lie detector test. He passed.
And what did that tell you?
It told me that he passed the polygraph, but I would never rule someone out just because they passed the polygraph.
Exactly. We discussed that here on the channel before. A polygraph may or may not mean a darn thing. So it's a tool. It's a tool used by law enforcement to see if there's deception or not deception. There's very good reasons why polygraphs are not admissible in court, because they're not foolproof and they can be beat. So again, this detective is correct. That really doesn't mean a lot.
Wright also re-interviewed another maintenance worker who had done repairs with Chino in Jennifer's condo.
Is nobody mad about anything? They're getting along fine?
Everybody getting along fine. Regular conversation, just letting us know what she wanted to be done in her unit.
Detective Wright then interviewed the building manager at Jennifer's condo to find out if there were any issues between Jennifer and Chino or anyone else.
Are you aware of anybody that might have had a problem with Jennifer that worked there or lived there?
No.
Again, the case stalled. Then, in 2010, Detective Wright was moved off the case. As time went by, the Kesses felt abandoned by the Orlando Police Department.
We asked them for several years to make her case cold because there's more resources available for cold cases. And they kept saying, nope, her case is extremely active.
Do you believe that anyone realistically has been working this case in recent years?
No. No.
This is recent, so, well, fairly recent. They went to court. Now the Kesse family went to court to gain the files from Jennifer Kesse's case. And it took a lot of fighting. This happened in, the lawsuit was filed in 2018. They asked the court to allow a private investigator to obtain the OPD's records on the case. As of right now, they have a new team on the case, and they're working several leads. Again, it's hard to understand why there's no resolution. And it seems like there's a lot of leads that OPD did not follow up on. Again, this Chino lead, these maintenance workers, because the more I've looked into her case, I feel like it was, my gut feeling tells me this was a maintenance worker or workers that abducted Jennifer. And I do believe that it happened the morning she was leaving for work. And there seemed to be a language barrier there. And a lot of these folks were immigrants or what have you. So they seemed like they disappeared when investigators tried to go interview them. So again, to me, they did make a lot of mistakes. And I can tell you right now, the Kesse family is not happy with Orlando Police Department to this day.
In 2016, it had been 10 years since Jennifer went missing. She was declared dead by the state of Florida.
That was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. I stood in a courtroom alone while a judge declared her deceased.
Can you imagine? Your missing loved one is missing for 10 years. It's hard enough. You don't know what happened to them, if they're still alive, if they're deceased, if she sadly was trafficked, if she was killed, whatever. And the state decides, well, it's been 10 years, so she's dead. Yeah, I would say the likeliness of Jennifer being alive right now is very, very small. But how painful, how horrible for this family for them to do that. There have been cases that have gone on longer where a missing person has not been declared dead. So as far as I'm concerned, that to me was a horrific decision on the state. And I feel for this family greatly on that.
Colleen, who asked to only use her first name, moved into the complex 2 years before Jennifer disappeared, believing it was a safe place to live.
We were a gated community. We had a guardhouse. I would say 75% of the time, somebody was there.
But she says once workers started living in empty apartments around the complex, she felt uneasy.
When I would come home from work, there would be a large group of men outside drinking, and whenever I would have to walk past them, there would be a little bit of comments or just a lot of uncomfortable stares. It wasn't a great feeling. I didn't like it.
Colleen says she complained to the leasing office manager.
He was apologetic, but he told me there was really nothing that he personally could do.
So these maintenance workers are leering, and it gets worse, okay, in making the women who live there uncomfortable. And there's nothing that the manager can do of this property. I think that's completely unacceptable.
In the very beginning, there were some uneasy things that I kind of brushed off that were red flags.
When Tammy, who also asked to only use her first name, moved into the complex years later, she believed workers often entered her apartment when she wasn't home.
There was creepy things like my underwear drawer was tossed. One time the shower was wet. There was footprints in my closet.
And then Tammy says she caught a peeping Tom, a man she believes was a worker at the complex.
He was pleasuring himself in the corner of my patio.
You opened the door and saw that?
Busted him. Caught him.
But she says he fled in a white van. Tammy filed a police report, and to this day, she says they have never found the peeping Tom or the white van he was driving.
Another fail by Orlando Police Department. And let me just say this. I fully support, and I've said this before, I want to make sure I'm clear though. I fully support law enforcement beyond. And I support my local police here, the sheriff's office here, Orange County Sheriff's Office, because this is my area, and I fully support OPD. But it seems like a lot of balls were dropped on Jennifer's case and this whole case with these women, and with what she just said. Why wasn't this followed up on? The more you hear from some of these women, like these two women, the more I believe that a maintenance worker or workers was involved in the abduction of Jennifer.
Then, Toretta spoke to a woman who did not want to appear on camera, and the name Chino came up again, that maintenance worker at Jennifer's complex. The woman claimed that Chino often approached her in the parking lot late at night when she returned from work and made her feel uncomfortable. But this woman, who wants to be called Ashley, had a different opinion of Chino.
I remember him being fun and friendly, talkative.
She moved into the complex just weeks after Jennifer disappeared.
He came over to my condo quite a bit.
She says they never talked about Jennifer's disappearance.
I always wanted to ask him, you have keys to all the apartments. What do you think happened? That's a really hard question to ask somebody that's sitting on your couch next to you.
Ashley says she never was suspicious of Chino until one day 9 months after Jennifer vanished, when Chino suddenly disappeared and moved out of the complex in the middle of the night.
He had the opportunity to tell me, and he didn't.
Ashley says at first she didn't reach out to police.
I sat on it for a little bit, and it just ate away at me. So I did. I called the crime line back then and told them, and they took my statement.
But she says no one ever followed up with her.
Chino's name came up again. So, do I believe that the ball was dropped? 110%. 110%. No excuses. Whoever was in charge of this investigation back in 2006, and further when these other women reported issues at the Mosaic. They just like, okay, well, we'll write it down, throw it in a pile. Yeah, that's not good enough. That's not good enough. It's not.
Hey, how are you? Chino. I'm Peter Van Sant with CBS News.
We agreed not to use his full name. When we asked about Jennifer Kesse, Chino quickly reiterated that he was innocent.
I even did a lie detector test. I mean, everybody knows for a fact that I had nothing to do with Jennifer Kesse.
You had nothing to do with her disappearance?
Not at all.
Where were you the morning of January 24th, 2006?
I don't have to answer any questions, but that's for sure.
And what about that photo taken by security cameras?
Is this you?
No, it's not.
Do you know who this is?
No, actually, I don't.
You don't?
I do not.
Now, you were the maintenance man there. You saw all the workers at that complex. You don't recognize this figure?
No. Mi amor, it's okay. I have nothing to hide.
Okay.
I do not recognize that person.
Do you know of anyone who might have been involved in Jennifer Kesse's disappearance? Anyone?
And believe me, if I did know anyone that was involved in that, the Kesse family would be knowing as well.
What I'm thinking is Jennifer comes out. She locks the door. Of course, she has her back to the apartment behind her and then is abducted by those individuals across the way.
Across the hallway.
Yes. She's locking the door and never sees it coming. She probably was attacked immediately upon exiting. She's dragged into that other apartment. And that's the end.
But Toretta struck out when he tried to find those workers who he believes lived in the vacant apartment across from Jennifer. And he says there is nothing in the files indicating that police ever spoke to them.
It's impossible to find those individuals. There's no lease.
There's no list of names of who was staying in which apartment.
Absolutely not. That was one of the most shocking parts of this investigation.
There's no excuse for that. Investigators should have done everything possible to track down those workers. And they should have checked the apartment across the way. They should have checked next door, upstairs, downstairs. Those should have all been checked and put in the file notes. And obviously, that just wasn't done.
It's very, very hard to move forward. The hole in our heart is forever there until we have an answer. We just want an answer.
And we just wish that one person that knows something in Orlando would just finally say it. It's about Jennifer, it's not about us. And just please think of Jennifer.
That's the bottom line. What her parents and her family are saying. It's about Jennifer. And I believe there are more witnesses out there. There's got to be more. 18 years. That's too long. She deserves to rest in peace, and the family deserves answers. I just can't understand why it's taken this long, and it seems like the closer that investigators, whether it's with law enforcement or private investigators, the more information they get, it seems like they still get pushed back. I feel like there just has to be more. And like I said at the beginning, that picture of her right there, that larger photo, that's the face of Jennifer Kesse that I have seen since 2006, when her family and her friends, posters, billboards, everywhere in Orlando and throughout this area, Central Florida. It's a face that I'll have to think about until answers are had. And someone out there knows something else. Someone out there knows. And if you know, please do call. I'm going to put the information here on the screen. If you have any information about the abduction or what has happened to Jennifer Kesse, please make that phone call. As you always know, you can be anonymous, but let's put some closure to her case. And let's give this family some answers, and let's get justice for Jennifer. All right, guys, that's all I've got for this one. Again, I'm going to be doing more on Jennifer's case soon. Hoping to go out there, and when I do, I will do some more videos, and I'll see what else I can cover to get the word out there more. Because her case needs to be solved. Maybe 2024. Let's make 2024 the year that justice and answers are had in the case of Jennifer Kesse. All right, guys. I hope you have a great rest of the day. And do me a favor on the way out. Hit that like button. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do that as well. I totally appreciate every single one of you. And with that, I hope you have a great rest of the day. And most of all, stay safe.